early this morning, one of the top leaders of MS-13 was apprehended. He was the leader for the East Coast, one of the top 3 in the entire country, right here in Virginia, living half an hour outside of Washington, D.C. He is an illegal alien from El Salvador, and he will not be living in our country much longer.
I've been working on this literally for the first 3 years of our administration with little to no help from the senior leadership in the federal government and the Biden administration.
This is what happens when you let good cops be cops. And we're going to continue to let good cops be cops across this country.
All right. But look, there's a lot to love right now. Celebrate it. I certainly don't want to be Debbie Downer, but I can't help but think we keep rounding all these people up in the first 2 months. So the Biden administration knew where they all were? Joining me now, my friend Steve Deace, host of the amazing Steve Deace Show. First of all, congratulations, my friend. It's my understanding you were going to be with the wonderful Blaze for a few more years. That's 1, 2. Steve?
I know. I am just as surprised as everyone else as they fell for it again, Jesse. So thank you. Yes, I will be.
Do Democrats want rapists and murderers in the country, Steve? How am I supposed to take it any other way?
I don't know that you. I don't know how you could. I think ultimately you have to understand that for the left, Jesse, and I know you understand this, but I think our audiences need to understand that for the left, everything is about power and control. Everything they do is about what grants them power and control. So do they want rapists and drug dealers in the country, as long as they're not in their neighborhoods, and allowing destabilizing forces in other places where they don't live will give them the power and control that they seek? The answer to that question is yes. It's why you're watching them turn on electric vehicles. Like, I'd never buy one of those in a million years, even if I could afford it. Right? To me, I just think there's just something un-American about a vehicle limiting the amount of I can travel until I charge it for 30 minutes, and of course then gives the government the power to decide whether to shut the spigot off on me or not. But now they're turning against the very electric vehicles. 2 Super Bowls ago, Jesse, every ad was an electric car, shoving them down our throats, mandating that we buy them. Now they're lighting them on fire and literally defecating on them. Why? Well, because Elon Musk is the best-selling electric car dealer in the world, and he's close to the president of the United States, who they loathe, because he's in the way of them acquiring power and control. And this is why woke white women think they can tell Dave Rubin who's really gay, and think they can tell Thomas Sowell who's really black. Okay, because you are in the way of us acquiring the power and control we want. Whatever grants them more power and control is what they're for.
Yeah, these people are freaking monsters. It is. Speaking of monsters, Steve, I'm not going to say I have an issue yet, but I'm starting to have an issue with the Trump administration as it pertains to these judges. Judge Boasberg, of course, the same loser that wanted a plane full of murderers turned around. He, of course, has now gotten the signal chat lawsuit. So we are now 2 months into the Trump presidency. We can't have Doge cuts. We can't deport rapists. We can't deport. So at what point in time does the Trump administration stop putting out social media posts complaining and just start ignoring? Because if it's 4 years of this, then it was 4 years of nothing.
I agree with you. At the very minimum, there's an argument taking place. I mean, we've never had an advisor as close to a president of the United States saying the things about the judiciary and the judicial branch in wide open public view that Stephen Miller is saying right now. So that tells me one of two things, that either A, he is doing this at the direct request of Trump in order to till the soil for the confrontation to come, or Trump is maybe playing coalitions within his own administration off of one another, and Stephen Miller at least has enough of a green light to try to win enough opinion on the right to his side, and his side is the right one. What's happening here is that if you're trying to put down a populist revolt, Jesse, then you take bodies that are not popularly elected and therefore not directly accountable to the people to do it. In Trump's first term, we saw this manifest two ways. You saw the unelected intelligence community attempt to do this with Russia collusion, which they were the source for, those bureaucrats. And of course, we're all patriots here. It's post 9/11, and that we hold these institutions guarding us and defending our honor, from sea to shining sea at a high esteem. So you don't want to question them, of course. And then then when that failed, ultimately did it again with the scamdemic. And so now it's our public health officials, unelected bureaucrats we'd previously never heard of, Debbie Birx, Anthony Fauci, Francis Collins. And of course, I mean, they have our best interest at heart. We put all 75 shots in our kids. They demand, no questions asked. You don't want to hate grandma, right? You know? And so now the new unelected bureaucracy are the judges. All right. And this is the most dangerous psyop of them all, because all of our lives, the right has assumed the position and ankle grab that the mere use of the 4 words, the courts have spoken, right? And we thought, because it was a nice grift for people on our side, frankly, that we can play judicial Russian roulette as well. We'll win about 25, 30% of the time if we're lucky, but that gives somebody a power base and a banquet circuit to find the next crop of judges and access to the system. Well, we've exhausted that now. And we're at the point now that they're not going to let him be president of the United States unless he defies them. And he's going to have to defy them. That's the only way out. Impeaching a judge sounds great, Jesse. We've done it 15 times ever. The last one was in 2010 over bribery. We don't have the capital or unity to do that. We're going to get 2/3 of a vote of the senators to do that. We can't get them to 51 votes right now for a friggin' tax cut. What needs to happen is Trump's got a moment here to be a Jefferson Lincoln kind of a figure. Lincoln defied the Supreme Court over Dred Scott when he issued the Emancipation Proclamation. Trump needs to do the same thing. Don't issue a statement. Don't put out a post on Truth Social. Just do it. Just do what the people elect you to do. Use the power they gave you and the authority that they have as the government by the consent of the governed. Just do it. Let them whine, let them complain and moan, and then take your case to the people in the next election and say, hey, if you like my interpretation of the Constitution, that we get rid of MS-13 and Venezuelan drug lords, vote for me and my party. If you like the Supreme Court and the Democrats, we just let these people live here into perpetuity, vote for them. That's the way it's supposed to work. No one single branch gets the final word on interpreting the Constitution. They all have that authority under the Constitution. And then the final word on the Constitution is actually not any one branch, it's the people. So Trump should fulfill his oath, fulfill the power the Constitution gives him, use the power and authority the people granted him, and then if the courts disagree, take that argument to the people and let them ultimately render the verdict.
Should be noted, just on my own personal note, that if Donald Trump chooses to go full Lincoln, I want him to go full Lincoln and arrest journalists. But that's another story entirely. Joining me now to move on
I could be convinced.
That conversation. All right, focus. I didn't want to put that on you, Stacey. I just wanted to own that. I didn't want to put that on you. Now, RFK Jr. has a new CDC director. Trump has a new CDC director, a Susan Monterez. What do we know about this woman?
Well, apparently not as much as we thought we did. Now, here's the thing. It seems to me that Trump is assembling a cabinet of rivals on the public health front. You have a variety of views. Many of them represent my own. Some represent other views. He's going to kind of play them off one another and say, hey, you guys figure this out. I think that's probably what's happening here. My real problem with Susan Monterez is, why go get someone, if you wanted someone to represent the conventional medicine big pharma viewpoint, so they have a voice in the room as these things are being debated, fine. But there's plenty of people that are loyal to our side that have these exact same views. I don't know why we needed to get a Biden, Kamala, Obama person to do that. You see, I mean, if we're going to grant agency across the spectrum of thought on an issue, reward your own people. I find it funny that I've got to convince the Trump people to practice patronage. It's one of the things they're actually the best at, so I don't understand why we give a seat chair then, give it to one of our people. We have plenty of people with big audiences, that love big pharma and like to remind people their wife's a doctor. Give them a seat then. I mean, they're loyal to us on many other issues. Do not give a seat to somebody from the Obama wing of the bureaucracy. That's the part I really don't like. What I'm also fascinated about here, Jesse, is RFK Jr. I mean, he knighted her. He transferred a lot of his extensive political capital in this arena onto her. And so I don't know how many gangster movies and mafia movies you've seen, but, being Sicilian, I've seen quite a few. And what ends up happening if you're the guy that brings the informant into the family? It's not just the informant that gets taken out to Miller's Crossing, brother. You go with him. Okay, so this is going to be fascinating. I mean, RFK Jr. did not just simply say, hey, support her. He gave her a vote of confidence with his own credibility. So she better deliver. Otherwise, people are going to have it reflect back on him every bit as much as her.
Is there a chance, look, I'm trying to put a sunny face on this whole thing because I'm still steamed about the Lindsey Graham incident, which we haven't even gotten into yet. But is there a chance that the solid people like Dr. J, Martin McCary, there's enough solid people in the health area of this administration where this woman, even if she is a freak, doesn't matter.
100%. I mean, this is the most contrarian healthcare bureaucracy, that's ever been appointed in American history. I mean, even if just one of the guys, Makari, Bhattacharya, even if there are just one, RFK Jr., of course, is the head of them all. He's the tribal chieftain of this entire, tribe. So even if we had just gotten one of those people, man, could you imagine if one of those people were put in a room in March 14th, 15th, or 16th of 2020 with Debbie Birx and Anthony Fauci, if just one Jay Bhattacharya, one Harvey Risch, one Peter McCullough, we got none. Okay, so even one is tremendous progress. For Trump to nominate several of them, I think we should still be very optimistic on this front.
Steve, thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.